I've heard women say, I didn't even realize that was happening to me. I thought it was, well, they say, I thought it was me. Because I always have to say, recognize it's a system you're working in that wasn't built for you and you're trying to fit in versus just coming to work as yourself, your authentic self.
Welcome to another episode of the Starter Girlz podcast. I am your host, Jennifer Loehding, and wherever you are tuning in today, we are so glad to have you. Well, I am so excited about my guest today. This is going to be so much fun. All right, we're going to open up with this. She is a global corporate leader who has built a powerful career inside high-pressure environments while staying deeply committed to people, purpose, and progress. She's someone who doesn't just talk about leadership. She lives it, studies it, and challenges the systems that hold people back. So whether you are building a business, leading a team, or learning how to use your voice more boldly, this conversation, I have a feeling, is going to be one you're going to want to tune into today. But before I bring her on, I do want to do a quick shout out to our sponsor.
This episode is brought to you by Walt Mills Productions. Need to add excitement to your YouTube videos or some expert hands for editing? Look no further. Walt Mills is the solution you've been searching for. Walt is not only your go-to guy for spicing up content, he's the force behind a thriving film production company with numerous titles in the pipeline. Always on the lookout for raw talent, Walt is eager to collaborate on film and internet productions. With a background deeply rooted in entertainment and promotion, Walt Mills leverages years of skills to give you the spotlight you deserve. Want to learn more about Walt and his work? Head on over to waltmillsproductions.net and let your content shine.
All right. And with that, I do want to make a mention to head on over to startergirlz.com. I tell you this every single episode. And why do I say that? For three reasons. One, because if you have missed an episode, it is a great place to catch up on all of those. It's also a great place to sign up for our community newsletter, and then you can stay in the know and hopefully never miss an episode that's going out. And then, of course, if you are an entrepreneur, maybe an aspiring creator, I don't know, wherever you are in this place, and you want to find out what your number one success block is that may be hindering your success, well, guess what? I've got you covered. I've got a 2-minute quiz over there that you can take that will tell you which of the 1 of 6 blocks that may be impacting your success right now. So head on over to startergirlz.com. And as I always say, do your thing. All right. Let's get the guest on today. This is going to be fun. So my guest today, Kae Kronthaler Williams, is a global software marketing executive, author, speaker, and advocate for women's advancement in the workplace. She's passionate about confronting bias, challenging toxic work cultures, and helping create environments where people feel seen, supported, and empowered to lead. So I'm excited to chat with her today. Kae, welcome to Starter Girlz. So excited to have you here.
Hi, Jennifer. Thank you. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
It's going to be so much fun. You are a powerful woman and doing some great things. And I know we got to chat like I don't even know when it was, but I remember chatting with you a few weeks back. And
it was a couple of weeks ago.
About what you're doing. And I'm so excited to kind of dive into this today. And, it's so fun when I do these conversations, and every once in a while, I love all my guests that come on here, but it's so fun when I get to kind of mix it up and shake it up and get somebody that's in a different place in the world. And so I'm just excited about this whole conversation.
Thank you.
All right. So let's talk about you. I want to open this up. So your career has taken you deep into high pressure corporate and tech environments, which I think is awesome. I know nothing about tech, so that's why I'm just excited about this. I would love to know what originally drew you into this role. What got you into this, and when did you realize you wanted to be a voice for change rather than just, having success?
So I started in my career in tech while I was in college. I was working in a company, and they had a software division. And so it was a new division of the company, and I was already working there, and I actually took a demotion to get into the software division because my manager at the time said, she knew I was almost graduating from college. She's like, I think this is a better career path for you. I know it's a demotion, but eventually it will pan out. And so that's how I started in marketing for the software industry. And, ever since, I've been in large companies, and then mostly startup companies or scale up companies has been my career. And what made me start to advocate for change is I've worked in a number of companies and I recognize these patterns of bias that were hindering my growth potential within the organization, and other women. And what I realized is that it wasn't just this one company, this one culture, because I worked in multiple companies and I was still seeing the same thing. And so I started eventually figuring out how to maneuver around those barriers and bias to be successful, because I have had a successful career. I started out as a telemarketer and now I'm a CMO. And so there are strategies that women and anybody, in a marginalized group can employ to get around some of these barriers that have been created from this system that was really built for men, by men. And so that is how I started to, want to talk about this a little bit more, get some of these strategies out to women so that they can have successful and joyful careers as well.
Yeah. Well, and they always say, like our pain is kind of our message, right? It's like the things that we have to
Yes.
work through, the hurdles, the challenges that we have to go through sort of become our talking points. And when there's so much to this, because I think there's this idea that, yes, you're in an industry that is heavily male dominated. And that's why I think it's so fun when I find women in the tech space, because you don't get it a lot, right? Like you get
Right.
a lot of men in that space. And so when I've had a few even on this show, and I'm always impressed by just the tenacity and the grit and persistence in doing that, because I can imagine, maybe now we got it down, but it probably hasn't always been easy, and so,
Right.
I think it's awesome. But I do think, yes, learning to navigate is important. And that's apparently you've had to do that. And so, you're in a place now where you can share that message with other people that are, in that, and
Yes.
maybe navigating those challenges.
Right.
So
Yes.
I love it. Good stuff.
And it has been challenging. I think a lot of women, we just kind of took it for granted that it was difficult. And so, and some people get dismayed by that, right? So some
Right.
women want to leave the industry, and I love the tech industry. I love marketing, and I want us to be successful as an industry. And I do believe diverse teams help companies be successful. So,
Yes.
that's the other reason that I'm just trying to help women navigate these rooms and these organizations.
Yeah. So a while back, I had on the show, just to not to digress, but just kind of add power to what we're talking about here. Zen Business. You're probably familiar with Zen Business. They
Mhm.
do help with like a lot of the legal work on businesses.
Yep.
But I had one of the, I want to say she was like one of the co-founders on, Shanaz Hamati is her name. You can look her up.
Okay. Yep.
And she's kind of an advocate for women in the tech, kind of in that space too. Had such a fun time chatting with her, but looking at some of your stuff, it kind of I can see some parallels in there. And it's so funny
Mhm.
when I do these shows, there'll always be that conversation I'll have with somebody and I'll be like, it reminds me of somebody else that was on the
Yes.
show or some of the work
Yeah.
that they're doing in that space. But one of the things she said was kind of what you were just talking about, is having these the diversity, bringing in different, having different people in the group. And her big thing was about this whole idea that, yes, when you bring diversity in, you're getting different opinions and different conversations. And it's not all, if you worked with all the same people all the time, you'd be in an echo chamber, right? Like you'd
Right.
just be sort of talking to yourself all the time.
Yeah.
And when you start having other voices come in, then you can have other ideas come in and input. And I think it just makes for better teams.
Yeah, and I think there's research that shows that companies do better, financially, and they also make better, faster decisions when they have diverse teams. And when you really think about it, it makes sense, because if you have this homogeneous group of people in a meeting or
Yeah.
in a company and they bring up an idea, everyone just nods their head. And
Yeah.
this doesn't
Kind
happen
of
all the time,
boring
but
meeting, right?
yeah, like, oh yeah, we agree.
Yeah. Right.
Where if you have people from diverse backgrounds,
Yeah.
you know, um, they come to the problem from a different angle and they offer different suggestions. So then you have a array of options for the best outcome, right?
Yeah.
Versus everyone thinking the same way. And so that's why I just think it just makes sense to have a diverse group of people. And companies, you're building products for probably a diverse group of customers. And so
Right.
you want people who understand your customers to build your products, to sell your products, and to market your products. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and let's talk about that leadership, because that right there, I think, is huge. And, even I work with leaders too in a different capacity, but I find that so many times that we get stuck in thinking that everybody has to agree and it has to be this way. And we lose sight of what you're just saying right here is that, yeah, you're going to have a diverse customer base. And if the only thing you're hearing is what you think it should be,
Right.
your input, your output, whatever that is, like, you could be missing an entire market, a segment of your market, right?
That's right. That's exactly right. Yes.
So,
Your segment of your market, or a particular product, or, some solution that you haven't thought of. Right.
yeah.
And you have competitors. So if they have diverse groups of people, they have an advantage potentially. Right.
Gotcha. Gotcha. All right. So you speak often. This is a good question I want to talk on. I am reading some of these today just to, and I'm going to be transparently clear here today because my brain is tired. I've been going all day. So I definitely got some notes here, but so if it sounds like I'm kind of reading, I am today.
Yeah,
You
that's
speak
fine.
often about workplace bias and toxic culture. And I think this is huge because I hear a lot of stuff about culture in companies. This is a big thing now. We're talking about this a lot.
Right.
What's one experience that you feel like maybe personally changed how you viewed leadership? You mentioned early on about being in this position where you had to, but is there maybe one turning point that you remember, or something that you were like, okay, this is something that needs to change in the culture itself?
I don't think it was one thing,
Okay.
honestly. I think it
Yeah.
was a number of things that I saw. And you're in there doing your job, and I was ambitious and I wanted to be successful. And
Yeah.
so some of it I was just trying to figure out how to do that. Right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, but then as I started, I've been doing this for a long time. I've been doing this for decades. I started to look back because I mentor people and recognize that there are patterns and there are ways to, there's strategies that I've had success with that I could share.
Yeah.
But I don't think it was just one thing.
Right. It never
Um,
really is, right?
no, but I think, you know, when we start off in our careers, or if we're entrepreneurs and we're, starting a new role or a new business and we're looking for funding, all of those things, I think we recognize as women that it could be difficult because we're told that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I don't think we recognize the frequency of it happening. Like, that was a shock to me. I was so
Okay.
excited about getting out of school and, starting my career, and, you just hit these barriers on a daily basis. Um,
Yeah.
and I don't think we were prepared for that.
That's
And
yeah.
I also recognize now when I look back how subtle some of these biases are. And, in these rooms where somebody's talking over you or they're stealing your idea, and we let them go, but we don't recognize that they are hurting you. They're hurting your
Mm-hmm.
credibility. It's that,
Mm-hmm.
those bias are reshaping how people view you, and that can affect your career growth.
Yeah. It's interesting that you say that too, because you're right. And I think that, it's funny. I feel like all these little micro conversations are coming up in different segments about just even like generation biases, right? Generational type things, the way
Yes.
things are between like the difference in the culture with baby boomers versus like your millennials and your Gen
Yes.
Zs, right?
Mhm.
And I saw something the other day, totally different topic, but I was scrolling through TikTok like we do sometimes. And I'm
Yeah.
like, looking through there and I see this whole, video clip about like how, there's the boomers are here, Gen X is here, and then you've got the millennials, and how Gen X is sort of kind of the bridge between these two here. And I think you're touching on something that's really important here, because there are these subtle, I think, biases that this is the way it's been. This is the way it's
Yes.
been, and nobody ever challenged that. And then I think now we're starting to challenge more things. You know what I mean? We're questioning more things, asking more things, and bringing it to the light, I think. And so you've touched on something I think really important here when you said these subtle biases, because I think that we get so wrapped up in this is the way it is. And then we don't even recognize it because
Right.
that's the way it's been. We don't even recognize that maybe that's not something we should be doing.
Yes.
Like maybe we need to change that. Is that
Yes.
even effective any longer?
Yes.
And then you've got, the younger generation that views work culture and everything very completely different. So they look at some of this and go, no way, right? Like,
Yes.
no.
I agree. You're absolutely right. And I think, the ones that are the older generations, we just tolerated it, right? It was just, that's the way it was. And we just figured out how to survive in those systems.
Right.
And I think what I love to see is these younger generations saying, no, that's just not okay.
Yeah.
That's not okay for me. That doesn't align with my values or how I view myself or how I view my life going. And so we are seeing shifts, I think, in more confidence in speaking up. I will say that I think the younger generation, they speak up outside of the rooms still. They'll support each other, but it's outside of the rooms. And we need everybody to address it in the rooms when it's appropriate.
Yeah. I think culture, it's so interesting because I don't know if I shared this with you, but I was in Mary Kay for a really, really long time. And, and I laugh about this because the whole thing with Mary Kay is about culture, right? That's why people stay in it because of the culture. It's
right.
I mean, there are people like I did okay. And I was in, leadership. So I did fairly well in the time that I was there. But a lot of people are in there and I don't even know if yes, a lot of them make money, but a lot of them probably don't too, because it's a business and that's how it rolls, right?
Yes.
I think a lot of them stay in just because of the culture that organization has created. And so I have been blessed, and I feel that, I sort of say I lived in a pink bubble for a very long time, that I got to be kind of in this whole environment where we really were able to sort of kind of put priorities in place and sort of live that out in our lives every day. And I'm grateful that my kids got to pick up on some of that, and when I exited out of that and got on my, kind of started rebranding myself. And now I'm no longer Mary Kay. I'm now Jennifer Loehding, and I've got podcasts and all these other things I'm doing now. I realized coming out of that things are so very different, being in the pink bubble forever, out here in this world and listening to the different, even like my husband, what they talk about at their work and then other people talk about in their culture, and how culture is just a big thing. It really is. It can make such a big difference in an organization. And you recognize those companies where they do very, very well with it. You know who those companies are. And those companies they have principles, but they also have some progressive movements too. They're not, and what I mean by that is they're not getting stuck in this is the way it has always been mentality.
Right.
If it's not working, we need to look at that. It doesn't mean we need to reinvent the entire wheel, but it does mean we should look at this and say, okay, maybe we need to fix something,
Right. I mean, if you think about Mary Kay, I used to love Mary Kay.
Did you?
The reasons why you probably enjoyed that culture is because you saw people that looked like you at all levels. You felt safe to speak up. You felt valued. And that's what people are looking for in all cultures. And unfortunately, we don't see those in every culture, right? And so, but that's why you probably liked Mary Kay. You felt comfortable. So when you feel comfortable, you feel safe to share your ideas, which means you feel like you're being valued and you're being heard and you're being seen. So of course you want to stay there.
Right. No, and you're right. And I think that it's the value. People want to be valued and heard, and if we're not getting that, then we're not. But it's funny. I will tell you this. I run an organization. I have a networking group that I facilitate I hate to say meeting. I call it success circle because I'm not a big meeting person word. I hate that word because I think it sounds too formal. And it's so funny because a lot of what I do in there, I sort of model after how I ran my events when I was in Mary Kay. A lot we talk about, wins and recognition and praising. And because people, when they, I tell them when they come in, this is an engagement. Like you come in, like we want to engage in this. These people want to be heard,
Yes.
and I let them come in and they get to share their wins that they've had for, since the last time we met. And then we, of course, we talk about goals and all those other things, but it's basically what you're talking here is about this being seen and heard. And I jokingly say that, yes, we need formality, but I don't want to do it at the expense of connection. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I don't want to lose the art of connecting, because when people start to get into processes without connection, then we start losing people, and there's no interest any longer. So,
and I think that's a great point, and that's the right word. It's connection, because there's a lot of companies there are companies that very much focus on performance. And of course we are in business to make a profit. So performance is a big piece of it. But when it's only about performance and metrics, we lose that connection. We lose the team feeling valued. We lose the team feeling that, or individuals feeling that there's a opportunity for them to learn and grow and participate. It's really just about a number. And so, then and those can turn into somewhat toxic cultures.
Yeah. And I do want to say, we don't want to say we don't goal set, because we all still do that, right?
You have to.
Now, we don't want to, we're not advocating here for like, don't ever set a goal, right? Like, cause we don't want to do that, but I'm with you on that. I feel like for so many years, and I think, you and I we've got parallels in that what we did for a very long time. And, even when I was funny as that was, I was in Mary Kay 22 years and thought I was going to be in that forever. I didn't think I was going to leave that. And every now and then I chuckle, because I'm like, it's kind of what I grew up learning, like how to book, sell, coach, and recruit, but I think that, we evolve, and we've learned our way through this, what we've needed to take away from that and grow from it. And so, and I think that's what this whole journey really is. Even when you talk about culture, it's just about evolving and giving your people a space to be seen, be heard, grow, and keep continuing to evolve.
Yes.
And keep the connection. So
that's right. Yeah.
I love it, Kae. Okay. So when you're working with women, what are you finding? Like, what is the maybe the universal block that you're hearing, or the thing that you feel like keeps them kind of stuck? I mean, other than these biases, what are you feeling you're hearing from them?
It's interesting. Recently I've heard women say, I didn't even realize that was happening to me.
Oh, wow.
I thought it was, they say, I thought it was me. Because I always have to say, recognize it's a system you're working in that wasn't built for you, and you're trying to fit in, versus just coming to work as yourself, your authentic self, right? So that there's a struggle if you're trying to fit into something that wasn't built for you at all.
Right.
So I think I hear a lot of that. And the other thing is there is this fear of when they recognize a bias is happening to them, or, discrimination or barrier or whatever it is, there's this fear of addressing it.
Yes.
They really they're afraid to speak up. And I've had people say, how do you do that in this room full of men? And they have, there's these strong, powerful, in their view, these strong, powerful men. How do you get the confidence to speak up? So that's something that or if somebody's talking over them, they don't feel comfortable to say, hold on a second, I'm going to finish what I'm saying, and then, I'd love to hear what you have to say after, right? Yeah. And so a lot of the conversations I have is giving them the language, because it's not hard if you think about it. It's not confrontational at all. Right? That's not the mindset of being confrontational. When I give them the words, I get a lot of, oh, I think I could do that. I feel comfortable doing that. We've made it such a big deal in our head that we have to confront these people in this hard way. And that isn't it. It's just being human and saying, I'm going to get right back to you, but I'm going to finish what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Right. And feeling that we deserve that. We deserve to be able, we deserve to say that, right? That because somebody's interrupting us. It's not our fault they're interrupting us. It's not a bad thing on our part, right? It's okay to address it, and it doesn't have to be confrontational.
Yeah, I love that, Kate. And you know what's so interesting is yesterday I had a podcast recording that I did with he's in ministry, and he says he works primarily with like preachers and, pastors because he's in ministry, and helps them basically write their stories, tell their stories, put it in book form. He does ghostwriting and all that. But he was talking about one particular story where I guess this woman, I don't know if she was a pastor, what she was doing in the ministry, but it was a particular denomination. He didn't mention any of that. And he said that she was getting, I don't know if he used the word harassment, but it was some kind of sexual something was going on within the organization. And to your point, one of the things is she was coming forward with her story, and she was having a hard time coming forward with that because she knew that then they were going to know, and they would know who she was talking about.
Right.
And his thing was, you needed to tell the story because it would help other people. Right. And so I think even in what you're saying here, when we get hung up on this whole inner dialogue, and this spans like across a lot of different things. It's not just about this right here, right? As women, we do this a lot in a lot of ways, but it's also about, I think from a leadership standpoint, when a woman steps into her power, she's actually setting an example for other women to also step into that leadership position. You know what I mean? So it's almost like we owe it, not even if it's just for us to step, but for our children, other women that are stepping into and want to have a voice and be like, hey, I want to be able to do this in a non-confrontational way, but be heard.
Yes. And I think that, I've seen it happen, actually. I've seen where if a woman says something in a meeting, and I was in a situation where there are other female executives finally in the room, not just me. And if one of them said something and some guy, one of our peers tried to steal their idea, I would say, well, hold on a second. Maria just said that. And so, or let Maria finish what she's saying.
Yeah.
When I started to do that, they would also do it for me.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's great.
And I think when you do it and you do it successfully without repercussion, they feel the confidence to do it as well.
Yeah.
And you're right. I think it's not only about, it's a couple of things. It's not only about, addressing it for yourself. It's not only about addressing it for change. It's about addressing it as and being a role model for the next person, to give that confidence to that other woman who's maybe in that room.
Yeah. Yeah. It's such a hard thing. I mean, really that whole, I think that self-worth thing, but I really love that what I love about what you're talking about here is really just the addressing without the confrontation, because I do think we internalize so much. We put so much energy around that if I speak up, that's going to be a bad thing. It's going to be confrontational. It's going to be icky. And it doesn't have to be, right? It's like
Not at
difficult
all.
conversations don't have to be hard. We make them so hard, I think, because we put so much energy into them. It's like sometimes you just have to be like, hey, you know what? Hold on. I bet you have some great ideas. Let me just finish this really quick and get through this. And then you have the floor. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Without it being like, oh my gosh, you stole that. What are you doing? That's not, that's confrontational, but I think it's really this art of communication. And I love that you're giving them the language, because I think, I will tell you this, even in Mary Kay, when we started out, we would have booking scripts, funny, totally different, but think about this. We would tell them to take the mirror and look at themselves while they were talking to see if they were smiling, number one, right? Because that's our energy comes through in our face and all of that.
Right.
But also would just be the difference in them using a script versus not a script. Because I used to say, I would be like, okay, take this for example, totally different thing. But if you're trying to book a client, for example, and you get on the phone and you call them and you're like, something like, hi, this is Jennifer. You wouldn't want to book an appointment with me.
Right.
nobody's going to want to book that, right?
Yes.
Like, it's like, no way. But if you turned around and you said, hi, this is Jennifer, and you give them your thing and you say, is there any reason why we couldn't sit down and let me, show you what I got for 5 minutes and you can tell me a little bit about, you know what I mean? Like, it's a very different approach. The words matter. You know what I mean?
Yes, that's a great analogy. That's a great analogy. Like the sales, because we do teach salespeople, like use this script, obviously make it your own, but the meat of it is the same.
Right.
And that's exactly what we have to teach women. Because I think we equate addressing something to confrontation.
Yes. Yeah,
And
it's probably because we were told to be quiet.
Yes, probably.
When
yes.
we were little, we were told to be seen and not heard. You know what I mean?
That's right. Yeah.
You can only be seen, don't be heard.
That's right.
We're like, every time we think we're going to say something, we're like, that's not good. And the thing, truth be told, again, as we become, because I'm probably like you were, like, I do speak up and I try to do everything diplomatically and fair and be kind. And if I don't like something, I'm just like, hey, I don't like this, like, I'm not trying to be rude, whatever, but I just don't like this particular thing. But, and I think most people, if you address that right, can handle that. But sometimes you get people that they can, and then you become kind of that in their mind, you are confrontational. And I always say, no, speaking up doesn't equal that if you handle it appropriately,
Yeah.
So,
and I think you're right that there's this fear of being considered confrontational. But there's ways to do it.
Yeah.
I always say, take the emotion out of it.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And you can be kind. And most people, I agree, when you address it, they'll respond in the right manner. They'll respond positively. Not all. Right. And when the ones that don't, it doesn't matter how they react. Right. What matters is you said what you need to say. You set your boundary.
Yeah.
That's all that matters. That's their decision on how they're going to react. But usually, even the ones that don't react well, they're going to pause the next time they do it with you because they know you're going to say something.
You're going to address it.
Yeah. They know you're going to address it.
Good thing.
Yeah.
I know. I think the older you get, the wiser you get on those, the better you get with that. And it really is an ever evolving thing. And I think
it is evolving.
Leadership is one of those things that you can't really teach. I mean, you can tell them things, principles of leadership and stuff, but I think really leaders are kind of grown, they're molded, they're developed over time. And it's because of these experiences that you were talking about in the beginning. It's going through these hard things and having to learn to evolve in that process and decide, are you going to let that define who you are and be stopped? Or are you going to use that as a catalyst to create change for yourself and whatever you need to do forward? And so I love all this that you're bringing forward because it's important.
And we don't get it. Even my years of experience, there's times where someone will say something to a meeting and I'm like, ooh, I'm not sure how to address this. Right. And so
exactly,
we don't always get it right in the meeting at the moment. There's plenty of times, even for me, I'll leave and go, oh, I should have said this. But you can always go back and say it after.
Absolutely.
If you don't handle it well in the meeting the first time, or you're fearful in the meeting and you don't feel like you addressed it correctly, go address it after. You still have the opportunity to address it after, but you should address it.
It's so good that you said this too, because this is important, because I think that is that defines a leader right there, what you're talking about. It's so funny. The other day, it wasn't funny then, I can laugh about it now, but I had a disagreement with somebody that was working with me the other day, and I say this, and I can openly say this because I'm okay with it, because I corrected, but I allowed myself to get just mad about it, like angry. And then I snapped and I felt bad. I'm not going to get, maybe the things should have been said. Maybe they shouldn't have been said. I don't know, but I felt bad because I allowed myself to get heated and upset over the situation. And so when I got off the call, at the end of the call, I said something like, I need to go. I got stuff. I need to get off this call because I need to go do what I need to do, because I knew I was mad. So I hung up, and then I text her back because I was still too heated to call. So I just text back and I said, I'm sorry I snapped. because I knew that in that moment that I handled something, poorly. Things needed to be said. Did they need to be said that way? Maybe not. Did they need to be all said? Probably not. But I
Right.
think what you're saying here is that self-correcting, being able to go back. And if you don't say it, do it right, you can always go back and
Always.
say, I needed to say this and I didn't, or I'm sorry that I said this, or I should have handled this differently. That is
Yeah.
part of that whole leadership thing.
We are human. We're not always going to get it right.
No,
And that's
never.
okay. Yeah.
Never, right? We're always
Yeah.
evolving. So I love it. So
Yeah.
tell me a little bit about your book, kind of what the inspiration behind it, because obviously this is the work you're doing. This is
Yeah.
talking about what we're talking about right here. What inspired you to get this out? And tell me a little bit about what's in this so our audience kind of knows what to anticipate.
Sure. The book is called, the title of the book is Not Made for You: How Women in Tech Can Challenge Bias, Claim Their Space, and Thrive in a System Made for Men. And the reason that I wrote the book was because I don't want to leave my profession without helping other women. And I know, as we talked about, I noticed these patterns. I started to test different strategies. Some of them I was doing just automatically because I was ambitious and I was trying to get through. But as I got older and had more experience, I was testing different strategies to see if they worked. And they were working. And I mentored women, as I said, and I noticed that they felt this relief when I told them, here's a way to address it.
Right.
And so I wrote the book to give examples of how it can show up at work, because I said it can be subtle. So there's stories, there's my stories, there's other colleagues' stories, and there's some famous ones that can show how it will show up for you at work. And then I give them the language to how to address it in all these situations, and then also give them strategies to have a successful career. And so I felt it was really important to help women get through these barriers because there is a way to do it. I have had a successful career, not that it wasn't challenging at times, but I also have had a joyful career.
Yeah, I love this. I know, and I think it's great. I like that it's practical. It seems like
It is
it's
a
actually like,
practical
hey,
guide.
here's an example. Here's how you navigate it. This is what you're going to use to do it. And I think stories are great. We know that stories work. They help people remember things, and people can relate to that when they hear that. So it sounds like it's a practical tool.
And I think that the other thing, it's for women, certainly, and
Sure.
marginalized groups. So any marginalized group would benefit from that. But I also think for men, it's great for them to read it because they really need to understand that our experience at work is very different than theirs. And I think this book will illuminate that for them.
And I love that because as you're saying that, I'm sitting here thinking, because a leader of an organization as a male, if he wanted his organization to thrive, would be saying, I need to understand this, right? I need to come to this with curiosity, and I need to understand what it is like for these females in my organization.
Yes. And I've had really positive feedback from men already on the book.
That's awesome. Yeah. Very good. I'm excited. Well, I need to check it out. I need to read it. I need to check it out. And hopefully I can inspire some other leaders to check it out. Because again, I think so much of what our problems, and I want just even outside, not even just in the workforce, but in life in general, because we have all these biases and we come to the table without a curious mind. We pretend to think we know what it's like to walk in your shoes. And I will say, as a trained, in the coaching space, I always, when I'm working even with my clients, I always say, I am not going to pretend I know what you're going through or how you feel, because there's nothing more annoying to me, okay, if you were on the other end and you were saying to me, I know how you feel. No, you don't.
Yes.
But the thing is, there are certain things as women we can say that we've gone through this, and you may be experiencing this too. And if you do, I might be able to help you go through that. But I think that is really how we have to come together in everything, is from a mind of, we don't really know what somebody's going through, and how can we learn that, and maybe we can learn to work together so that we all win in this, whatever it is we're doing together, whether it's life, work, whatever,
Yes.
So-
We have to recognize that we all have bias, not just,
Oh yeah. Right.
this isn't just about men, or
Right.
we all have bias, and we need to recognize that so that we are aware when we're looking through that lens of bias.
Yeah. I love that you said that because it is true. And it's so funny because I try so hard, like when I'm dealing with situations, because we all have biases, and I'll be like, stop that. You're generalizing. Do not do that. Stop doing
Yes.
that. Stop generalizing. Do not do that. But we all do it. And so we do.
We all do it.
Yeah. The big thing here, I think, really is just, to try to be mindful. And it's so funny because I feel like all of the episodes that I've had on recently, even leading up to yours, has been about curiosity and self-image. We've had a lot of talk about our being. Like I mentioned yesterday in the episode that a few weeks ago, I had a Cal State professor on in psychology, and his big thing was talking about our being versus our doing, that we spend a lot of time doing success, getting accolades, right? Thinking these are the things, but it's really the being that we need to be working on, which is, again, and he equated it to vertical versus horizontal growth, like how we go about our growth. And because our being goes with us everywhere we go, right? And that's how we show up into the world, which is playing out into everything we are talking about right here today. And then I followed that up the next week. I had another guy on that was in the education arena, and he came up with this whole thing about mind shifting. And his big thing was what we're talking about with curiosity, leading with that. And when we lead with that, it allows us to have better conflict resolution skills, allows us to solve problems better because we're eradicating some of these biases. We're coming to from a place of, tell me what you're going through, or tell me, I may not agree with everything that you're saying or doing, but tell me what your experience is, or what you're currently going through. And so I feel like all these episodes have sort of kind of been leading, like spinning onto each other. And then yesterday I had the guy in ministry, and we were talking again about a lot of the same things, these kind of like what you're talking about, some of these stories coming up and being afraid to bring them forward because it makes us vulnerable, and how we need to be able to do that to really help other people and lead, which is leadership.
Yes.
So I love it. It's all good stuff. Good stuff.
I love that there's multiple conversations around this. This is what we need. More people talking about it.
Yeah, that's what this show is. That's what I tell people. Like I was trying to I had somebody the other day write in. It was funny. Somebody was trying to sell me on SEO, and they were like, your episodes, you talk about a lot of different things. And I'm like, tell me you don't know what this podcast is about without telling me you don't know what this podcast is about, right? It's about thriving. It's about what all of these things that we're talking about are really they're interlaced. It doesn't matter whether you're a CEO, you're in the corporate, you're in your own business. Culture exists everywhere in every part of our lives. We are in part of our lives. We're talking about biases. All these things you're talking about, boundaries. This all has to do with our image of ourselves, right? So these things all overlap. And the only way we truly thrive is when we start having these conversations and recognizing and having self-awareness around this in our own lives,
That's right. Exactly.
So, it's good stuff. I love it. Well, you're doing awesome stuff, Kae. I love it. And so I would love to know any other projects coming up in the works. I know you just launched your book, but is there any follow-up coming up to this that you're thinking about, or anything else you're working on?
Right now I did just launch my book. And so my next phase is really just what we're doing is getting in front of larger groups of people, women, marginalized groups, to share with them my experience and give them the tools to help them thrive in their career. So those are the things I'm looking at, is, speaking opportunities. And again, just to get on a larger platform to deliver the message, have the conversation.
Yeah, well, you're doing the right things. Podcast seems to be the medium right now, where it's like I saw something the other day. They were talking about how it's a small segment, but it's pretty powerful. Because when you get on podcasts, you've got people that have audiences that are following. Those audience are captivated, and they're listening to everything that's going through there in the medium. And that's a lot of why I vet the people that come on here. And it's not because so much of having to necessarily agree with everything, but more about I want to, it's about who the human spirit, really who the person is that's coming on the show and what they
Yeah.
represent for themselves. And I love what you're doing because I think that, one, I can tell you're passionate about it, which I think is incredible. But also you're a, a walking billboard basically for this because you've walked it, you've gone
Yes.
through it,
I've
and
had the experience.
yeah, you've come out to say, hey, here's how it's gone for me. And in a positive way. That's what I love, is that you're really honing in on, there's going to be challenges, but you can do this. You've got this.
Yes.
You just need to
Yeah.
learn the tricks of
Right.
how to get through
That
it.
is, that is the message right there.
Yep.
That there are challenges, but there's strategies to be successful in these environments.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So if anybody wants to pick up this book, which I'm sure somebody listening to this today is going to be like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. These girls are like and listen, we don't want to say this is just about women, because we want men to be confident and bold and be able to speak their mind and feel safe and
That's
seen and
true.
heard too. This is not
That's
just
right.
about women. We all should be able to be in that space, right? Where we feel seen, heard, and validated, period.
Agreed. I agree.
Right?
Yeah.
But
Yes.
I'm sure somebody listening to this today is going to want to pick this book up. And I hope that, some men that are listening to this too go in and say, you know what? Yeah, we need this. We need to maybe read this and understand it so that we can work with both sides, and so where do we tell them to go find this thing?
Amazon.com. Again, the name of it is Not Made for You. And Amazon and, Goodreads and Barnes and Noble. And you can also go to my website, which is Kae Williams, and that's KAE Williams.com. And there's links to purchase the book there as well.
Very good. Very good. Well, very cool. I'm going to go check it out. So I want to read it. I was funny. I have books like all over I have them in here. They're like all
sure.
around. Yeah, I love it. Well, and cool thing, I just got an email yesterday. Apparently there's this site out there now that will go in and give you, it's like an AI site that will give you like summaries of books, and it's all, leadership, everything. I'm so excited about it because now you can go in and actually go in there and just get like this, kind of a synopsis of the whole thing.
That's great.
And go through there. So if you need books, but I am always checking out books. I've got them all over the place, and I love reading everybody's books and recommending them. And so I'm going to definitely check out yours and hopefully get it out to the world so we can get some other people reading on it. So
wonderful.
Okay, this has been great. I'm so excited for you. Thank you for coming on here today and chatting with us. It's been a fun conversation. I never know where these are going to go, but this has certainly been a fun one today. And I definitely want to, wish you continued success at what you're doing.
Thank you, Jennifer. I've enjoyed the conversation as well, and I really appreciate you having me on your show.
Thank you. Awesome. And of course, to our listeners, we appreciate you and love you. Hope that you found this episode both inspiring and informative. And go check out Kae's book, check out her work, keep up with her. And of course, if you like the episode, you know what to do. Hit all those buttons, like, subscribe, comment, share, so we can keep sharing all of this fabulous content. And as I always say, in order to live the extraordinary, you must start. And every start begins with a decision. You guys take care, be safe, be kind to one another, and we will see you next time.